How's it going, Chris?
Hey, good. How are you?
Pretty good, pretty good. Thanks for having me this morning, man.
Yeah, thanks for willing to do this.
Yeah, for sure. My pleasure.
So I could just jump around a bit before getting to Fire Emblem with questions and whatever.
Cool. Sounds good.
So I know that you went to school in Arizona, but are you based in New York now?
So I was in Arizona, then I was in New York for 6 years, and I just now moved down to Orlando because my wife works with Disney.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
Was there ever any or is there still a plan to move to LA or?
I it's definitely on the radar. I'm originally from San Jose, so I was my first 10 years I was in California. I have a lot of family in Southern California still. And I'm back and forth. Yeah, if the wind blows that direction, I would love to be down in LA. I There's a lot of really expanded opportunities, whilst a lot of voiceovers, a lot of really remote these days, which is awesome. uh there's still some stuff like PCAP and a lot of AAAs, down in Santa Monica, et cetera, that would love to be take part in eventually. So that would require a move.
Are you SAG eligible then?
Yeah, I'm a FICOR member. I'm a FICOR
Okay.
member of SAG. Yeah.
Is there like a special story of how you joined SAG?
How? Yeah. I I got hit like really quickly, actually, because um I um I got picked up by my agency a few years ago. And I was doing my first year. I did a couple union projects. I do a good amount of like long form like story podcasts. Like I'm on Birds of Empire and Black Friday. Um, and actually, Black Friday was my last Taft Hartley pass that I used, and that was with Fred Armisen. Um, and I play basically like Needlehead in that, like a parody version of Pinhead, sorry, from Hellraiser. And after that one, it was my last Taft Hartley, and I got hit with like a couple union commercials, and they're like, we have to get this pushed through very quickly. And so, because the Taft Hartleys, you get like 3 free passes, right? And then you become a must join, and you can work for 30 days on union projects. But outside of that, then you have to get in the union. There's paperwork you have to fill out, you have to mail stuff. So there were a lot of stuff I had to get rolling pretty quickly, and I just had this cool check come in, but then like all of it got eaten up by my dues. So it
Yeah.
was like kind of a bummer, but I mean, I am grateful to take part.
Was it always voiceover that you wanted to focus on, or was there ever any live action aspiration?
Yeah, good question. So I came from a theater family, and we actually had a theater company growing up when I was a kid in Arizona, and my mother was a New York theater actress, and so I was really like immersed in the world of theatrical, like all the way up into college. And but I did want to do voiceover, was always my end goal. Ever since I was a little kid, watching Scooby Doo on my grandparents' couch, and figured out that was a job that you could do. Um, and musical theater, actually, I got my degree in it, and it translates so wonderfully, I think, to animation and to like big characters. So it's kind of the reverse. I'm now doing I've been doing majority voiceover for years and years, and now I'm kind of like, when am I going to do a show again? When am I going to do a play again?
I know that you've had a handful of anime experiences too. What was your first one?
Yeah, my first was Pong Saklek on number 24. And it was produced by MYAV, and we got connected. I was doing a story podcast that I don't think ever came out, and it was a story podcast that was produced by um, a TV channel. Like it was supposed to be a little bit of a big thing. And I met Rachel Slucky, the casting agent. We were both actors on that, and she was about to break into Yu-Gi-Oh, which she ultimately did. And years later, we reconnected, I think on social or something. And she knew that so I'm West African and British is my heritage, and I study West African and African dialects, and I do those as characters quite a bit. And she knew that, and she needed me to come in for actually EDF World Brothers. Um, and shortly after EDF World Brothers, they were doing number 24, and they were like, oh, we had a lot of fun with Chris, like let's bring him back in. I'd never done anime before. I was super nervous. I was really hyper fixated on flat matching because I'd studied everything, right, um and it was a cute bit part. I was in, I think, like 4 episodes, maybe combinedly. I had like 10 lines, a little bit of walla. It was a blast. It was a show that was produced by Funimation. It's an original anime. It's about rugby. It's about a real rugby team too, so it was like very specific. And I remember working on it and being like, I would love for this to be a thing. I also don't know who the audience is quite for it.
Yeah.
But the cast is super decorated. There's Griffin Patel leads it and directed a bunch of episodes. It's a wonderful cast. But I remember being like, I don't know that this is gonna be my big break, but I was so grateful to get thrown that bone.
Well, then I know Prince of Tennis would have been afterward.
Yeah, so my 2022 looked something like this. So because, and I'll just chart it out so that the story makes sense a little bit. So I recorded number 24 at the end of 2020, and then in 2021 I went out for a few things, but I didn't book any anime. And I was like, wow, maybe that was my one-off, and that's okay. I'm grateful for the opportunity. And at the top of 2022, I got a booking for Netflix's Turn My Romai, and I was told what was what was on the call sheet was like additional voices, which I was like, fantastic. This is so cool. I know a little bit about it. I'd done my homework. And I show up and they're like, all right, so you're playing Apollodorus. I was like, what? I did audition for that guy. Yeah. And he's like this 50-year-old guy, because I play like a lot of old dudes. This began my old dude journey. And I did the scene, and they're like, great, now we're gonna go over to, this is Michelle Rojas, who's an awesome director. We're gonna go over to a few more episodes. Now he's 97 years old, and he's 97 years old for the rest of the series. I was like, I'm a series regular. You're a series regular, and you're 97 years old. So that was like a really sort of seat of my pants role, but I loved it so much. And then from that, I got Ryoma Prince of Tennis, the movie, directed by Howard Wang. And we did Ryoma. That was surreal because that had a wide release in theaters. And I was like, oh my gosh, I got my friends together and went to see the movie in theaters in New York. It was so glamorous. And from that movie, then I got a direct offer for Prince of Tennis U17 World Cup to play Dedu. And that continues to be just such a wild ride. I love how diverse the casting is and how committed Howard is to bringing in folks from other Prince of Tennis franchises, which is actually, it mirrors what they did in the original Japanese. Is they brought in a bunch of, like, it's kind of like an all-star game of Prince of Tennis mainstays. So it was an honor to sort of slide under the under the door with that one, with having just done Realm of Prince of Tennis.
So was when Fire Emblem came up, was that just a pretty normal audition?
Okay, so when they have auditions, they use code names for stuff a lot,
Right.
and the bigger clients are really good at it. You'll be doing something, you've heard about how, like, Marvel, it's like they were like, I didn't even know what the movie was about until it came out, because they give you fake lines and fake sides and stuff. So with this audition, what tipped me off to it was probably Fire Emblem. There was like a character who looked, some of the character art was there, but a lot of it was like analog, like people that you could compare to in anime. And one of the characters I think was called like Paul or something, or like something along the lines of Roy. And I was like, oh, this is Fire Emblem. And but it didn't really affect the audition too much because of course like Vigarde isn't voiced in his game, you know, you don't really have any reference point. But I auditioned for it and I got the booking notification, and the booking notification was in code too. It had a code name too. And so I was like, I told I was I mean I didn't tell anyone, but I was like, oh, okay, I guess I'm working on this thing. This studio also produces Persona 5, you know. They do Fire Emblem stuff. It very well could be Fire Emblem. And yeah, and then I dropped into the session, and Patrick Seitz was my director, and there were two writers from Fire Emblem from Nintendo on the line. And yeah, and we just you know, the rest is history.
What was the process of developing the voice? It's obviously it's very much far from your own.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. So with Vigarde, I drew some inspiration from a similar king that was like kind of possessed, you know, Theoden from Lord of the Rings. Um, I think I really like these characters that battle with lucidity. So whether they're like mentally unwell, or whether they're possessed, or whether they're transforming into something, or whether they just are really beat down later in the game or later in the show. You know, I love seeing that whole dynamic arc. um what we worked on in this session, because my original audition was um kind of Britishy, I think. Yeah, I think it was kind of
Oh,
Britishy. And you know, per the story, they have to be general American. And so we shaved back the Britishness, and then played with like degrees of like how possessed is he at this point, you know, like how possessed. And also like how just different degrees of like disdain that he has while possessed for people, right? You know, like the parish lines, these different things where it's just like, you know, I would like give the line, you know, with perhaps too much gusto, and Patrick would walk it back and be like, no, he literally just doesn't even care about this. Like, is this person is not a threat to him? Oh, he got stabbed. He's a reanimated corpse. So like, you know, his pain efforts aren't real genuine pain efforts because his nerves are all weird. So there was a lot of considerations of like how possessed, how disdainful, how human, you know, and playing with those sliders throughout the session. But the session cooked along pretty quickly. I think we knocked it out in like 30 or 40 minutes.
mhm. Do you have a, well, at least since he's been out, or if you can remember, do you have like a single favorite line?
Oh, Leon, his death line is my favorite line. Um, yeah, it breaks my heart. You know, it breaks my heart. Their relationship breaks my heart too, because even if you um like in Sacred Stones, you know, Leon's like, this guy's a real piece of work, you know, to Ephraim and everyone. And
Yeah.
he's like, this guy's a dirt bag. But like if I'm correct, he like had already killed him whilst possessed, and then he resurrected him through a dark ritual, and now the dad's possessed. So like they he kind of got a rough shake. And the idea that he has lucidity and perhaps an awareness of the whole thing, a moment of pure clarity right before he dies, is so tragic to me. And um complex. It's so much unfinished business. And yeah, so that's definitely my favorite detail in line.
Do you think that's also one of the darkest headspaces you've had to go for a character?
Yeah, I think that I think it's up there. I think it's up there. uh Rather than like playing the demonic possession like a demon, like, oh, I'm from like, you know, the bad place, or I'm from like the darkness. I was playing the demon kind of in the theory of like ghosts, or like people with unfinished business sort of thing. So it was kind of like, Oh no, this guy was just like an elitist. Maybe he's a frustrated ruler. Maybe he's of course classist. All these bad things that we'd attribute to human people. So he was like a bad guy, but I didn't really go into the demon headspace necessarily for it. Because I didn't want to abandon his ability to come back at, likable in those two lines where he's like, we must save our people, and also the Leon line. Another dark headspace character, probably the story podcasts I'm on, like Black Friday with Fred Armisen playing, a pinhead. We have such sights to show you. And Yeah, honestly, that one probably. Yeah, because we're the undeadites, summoning, things from hell to kill people and tear them apart. That would probably be the one.
Aside from older man characters, what is the case where you've had to alter your voice the most significantly for anything?
Yeah. Um, I mean, the old man stuff is tricky. I think that's probably varying degrees of it. I think a particular episode of Termite Romai that was really challenging as Apollodorus is, he has this windy voice, right? And it takes like so much air to go through the chords to get there. And he was screaming at these kids to um to get off of this statue of Jupiter or something. And he it's like a rant, one of those great anime screaming rants, but it took so much air that, and Michelle saw me get just winded in the line halfway through a sentence, because it was so loud and so windy, uh, that we started strategically placing pauses and breaks in the phrases. So that speech is actually like 4 takes, I think, sewn together.
Oh,
It was just technically like, it was like singing opera or something. It was just like so windy, and so, challenging to get that projection. But thus far, yeah, thus far, I think that's been the biggest stretch.
was there also any basis with the Vigarde off of the Japanese, or no?
I think because it was locked down so much, like it was news to me that Kenta Miyake was doing the Japanese, and I was elated. I was like, oh wow, that's incredible. But maybe there was some on the efforts, I think, just to align on, well, what's going on screen. But I can't recall referencing the J as much as we do when we're doing the anime stuff.
Well, I'm sure maybe you've seen this, but like from your Twitter post or comments or whatever, but everybody thinks that your performance as Vigarde is great.
Oh, thank you. I was so relieved and touched, Yeah, I was very, very honored that people enjoyed it and that it translated, that people got what I was trying to put across.
Were you have you played very many of the games in the franchise?
Embarrassingly, no. I've watched the lore videos, and I probably will get into them, maybe starting with Engage. I just love the cast on that. Is there one that you would recommend? I was watching a video that said I should start with 4.
Oh well, I mean, I think Three Houses revitalized the series a lot. Um,
Hmm.
that's a good starting choice. Engage
Okay.
is really fun, but yeah, I mean, pretty much all of them are good too.
Yeah, I mean, I love that. I love that style of game. So, yeah, I definitely could see myself getting into it this year.
Was there anything that you want to say to the Fire Emblem community then?
Just thank you guys so much for the warm reception. I am grateful that to be able to borrow this character for a bit, and that we added successfully to the lore of it. Um, Thank you for continuing to keep the lights all lit, and I look forward to digging in and getting more involved.
Well, my final question then is always asking, what do you want your legacy to be?
I want to be seen as a generous actor. I think I want to be seen as someone that had a lot of ideas and was flexible and kind, and um, yeah, and made a project better, not necessarily by my performances, but by the energy that I brought to the ensemble.
Well, thanks. I'm glad that we got to do this. It was fun when your picture popped up next to Vigarde. Everybody was like, "Oh, he's so wholesome looking in comparison."
Right. For sure. They're like, what happened to this young man?
Yeah.
Totally.
Well, have a good rest of your day then.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Chris. You be well. We'll see you, man.